Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Today I stand here as the proposition in favor of the motion. This House would oppose the practice of granting political power to violent insrgent groups in developing countries such as FARC in Colombia, More Islamic Liberation Front in the Philippines, and etc. We all know that the practice of granting political power is one of the most risky actions, especially for the stability of the government in one nation. And giving it to the violent insurgent groups, especially in developing countries, who's still dynamic and not stable in any very aspect, is the wrongest thing that we should oppose today. But before we clarify how to oppose and why to oppose, let me deliver to you, ladies and gentlemen, the key terms and the definition of today's motion. First, violent insurgent groups are groups that fight the government using weapons and violence. They often want power or role that is part of the country, of course. For example, FARC in Colombia and MILF in the Philippines. 2. Granting political power means letting these groups join the government, have the power in the government, in the country, and have a rule and the status to lead the country or in the specific area. 3. Developing countries or countries that is still growing. They often face problems like the violence, the weaknesses of the government, and some conflict. Okay, so the limitation or the parameter of this debate is about whether it is right or wrong to give this kind of political power to these violent groups just because they agree to stop fighting, just because they agree to stop making riot, that is, make a public buzz and distracted public peacefulness, and just because they give the government promises to not do that. Okay, so what is really happening right now around us? In some countries, the government actually signs a contract with the violent groups, and because of that, the groups get power and a role in government. These deals are meant to stop a war between the government and the groups, of course, but we believe they actually causes more problems in a variety way, because that is what they put in their rules. So here is a few reasons that is considerable and why we should not give a political power to the groups that is using violence. First, it rewards violence and unfairness. When a group uses violences to like bombs and guns that is disturbing public peacefulness, and then it returns that they actually get that power, they actually get what they want. They put on what they want, that they put on the goals, what they're gonna say to everyone. What do you think that they're gonna say to everyone? Hey guys, you know what? Violence is actually works to get what we want, especially for the government. And that is very dangerous, I tell you, ladies and gentlemen. That is not a kind of a message of the developing countries which sent to the citizen. And because of that, it is very unfair to the victims of the war that is not should be led by the perpetrator of their beloved one, who is the victims. And it is very unfair too to the citizen that is actually following the rule and gets nothing. 2. It's creating a public distrust to the government. It is very obvious, ladies and gentlemen. The job of the government is to protect people and to follow the law. But if the condition turns out they actually giving a power to the one who's used violence, people gonna lose trust. It is logic things. This makes people stop believing in democracy, election, and the most important one, fairness. And that's very dangerous for any countries, especially the developing one who's still unstable and very dynamic in every respect. The last and the very important is it encourages more violence in the future. If one groups use violence to get something that is actually works, other groups will try to do the same thing the same way, that is using violence. This means more people gonna start new war, cause more fighting and riots, and use violence that more often, and it will make a constant danger for the citizen, and it is very dangerous if it will turn a constant danger. In conclusion, giving power to people who hurts other is not a good solution, even though it will give a peacefulness to making a peace. And besides that, it's not the kind of peace that we want. Giving up to the violence group. There are better ways to make peace. For example, let the group be judged for the crime first, and after that, the group should follow the rule just like the other. If they want a power, they want a role in the government. We believe government must protect peace, but not by rewarding violence by the three considerations. First, it rewards violence and unfairness. 2, it's creating a public distrust to the government. 3, it encourages more violence. And because of the status quo, the government actually signs a contract with the violent groups, and because of that, the groups gets the power or role in the government. These deals are meant to stop war between the government and the groups, but we believe that they actually create a more problem in a variety way and in some countries. And that's why I, as a proposition, strongly proud to oppose this practice and this motion. Thank you.